fly from Melbourne to Adelaide in less than an hour. But where's the fun in that? I'm Adam Ford from Top Oz Tours, and in this double episode of our YouTube travel series, we're joining AAT Kings on their Tastes of Southern Australia guided adventure from Sydney down to Melbourne and across to Adelaide. In part 1, we covered the first half of the journey, and in this video, we'll tick off 10 great things to do on the road from Melbourne to Adelaide, via the Great Ocean Road and with a side trip to incomparable Kangaroo Island. Along the way, we'll say g'day to the 12 Apostles in Port Campbell National Park, sample the wares of the Coonawarra wine region, go below at the Naracoorte Caves, walk with sea lions at Seal Bay on Kangaroo Island, get amongst Adelaide's top cultural attractions, and much more. But before we check in with our AAT Kings travel director Delma, take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more inspiring travel ideas. Travelling with AAT Kings makes an overland trip like this one so easy. Deluxe coach transport and accommodation are included in the tour price, and we get to stay in some fabulous hotels. They're centrally located and porterage is provided at a number of properties. On board the coach, travel director Delma keeps things moving along.
The second part of this trip, we're travelling from Melbourne through to Adelaide. Not a part of Australia probably that some of the people who watch this video will be that familiar with. What would be your favourite part of the trip?
Oh, okay.
Because I know you're going to say Kangaroo Island.
Exactly. Oh, we say it's the Galapagos of Australia, Kangaroo Island. I was there, I think I was the first tour after the fires, and absolute devastation, but now it's really looking healthy. And hopefully we'll be able to see some animals, some kangaroos, koalas. Of course, that's what our international guests just want to see and take photos of. It's looking spectacular. You will absolutely love it.
But there's a lot of ground to cover before then. And departing Melbourne with our friendly driver Darren at the wheel, we head towards the magnificent Great Ocean Road along Victoria's southwestern coastline.
Wow, the Great Ocean Road, what a spectacular drive. What's really interesting about the Great Ocean Road is, of course, it was built by hand by returned service personnel from World War I. Work began on the road in 1919, it wrapped up around 1932, and today it is recognised as the world's largest war memorial. Now, the weather is not looking all that crash hot. We've just arrived in Apollo Bay, so I'm going to head indoors and try one of the region's local specialties. Come with me.
Apollo Bay Bakery does everything you would expect a good bakery to do, including excellent coffee. But it's their famous scallop pies that bring all the tourists to the yard. And packed with juicy Bass Strait scallops, they more than live up to the hype. Pies aside, the biggest thrill of a drive along the Great Ocean Road is seeing the 12 Apostles sea stacks, and they are spectacular. Crossing the border into South Australia with the dicey weather hot on our heels, we drop into Mount Gambier to feast our baby blues on the Blue Lake. From there, Darren heads up the A66 to one of SA's most famous wine regions, the Coonawarra. This narrow strip of terra rossa, red soil to you and me, yields phenomenal cab savs. And we visit Wynns Coonawarra Estate for a guided tasting of their top drops. And what's even better is that someone else is doing the driving. A 30-minute drive further north brings us to Naracoorte, famous for its fossil-rich caves. And they continue to yield fascinating evidence of Australia's megafauna. We head down into the Alexandra Cave on a guided tour to admire this subterranean world of wonder and to do some fossil spotting of our own. On the road again, we hightail it over to holiday hotspot Victor Harbour on the Fleurieu Peninsula. And there's time for a stroll out to Granite Island, which has an arid beauty all of its own. From there, it's a short drive to Cape Jarvis to board our Sea Link ferry across the Backstairs Passage to Kangaroo Island.
Alrighty, well, welcome to a rather windswept and chilly Kangaroo Island, 14 kilometres off the coast of South Australia, but a world away in terms of the wildlife viewing opportunities, the artisanal food and wine scene. So much to see and do here on the island, including amazing Seal Bay. We'll be back here a little later on, but right now, let's check out the remarkable rocks.
Located in Flinders Chase National Park, the Remarkable Rocks are a collection of giant natural sculptures that wouldn't look out of place in New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art. Just a stone's throw from the rocks, an early 20th century lighthouse overlooks the treacherous waters off Cape de Kudik. Follow the boardwalk down to epic Admiral's Arch, which is home to a colony of New Zealand fur seals. Back at Seal Bay, one of the island's signature wildlife viewing experiences awaits you. Accompanied by a Parks SA ranger, you'll head down to the beach to observe the resident colony of Australian sea lions. There are no fences or enclosures at Seal Bay. It's just you and the sea lions, some of them up to 350 kilograms in weight. Kangaroo Island is home to a number of wineries, a popular distillery and Kangaroo Island Brewery, where owner and brewer Mike gives us a rundown on the production process. Here, everything is done by hand, and we get to sample the fruits of Mike's labour in the tasting room. Farewelling KI, we arrive in Adelaide for a two-night stay. There's a huge amount to see and do in the SA capital, including an array of world-class museums and galleries, most of which are free to see.
Now, there's no doubt that the South Australian capital is a fabulously historic and artistic place, and most of the preeminent cultural institutions can be found on North Terrace. Now, the State Library of South Australia is home to the famous Mortlock building. I've heard a lot about it, but I've never actually seen it. Let's go and take a little wander back in time.
My name's Mark Gilbert. I'm a librarian at the State Library of South Australia. The Mortlach building opened in 1884. At the time it was known as the Jervois wing of the State Library, named after Governor Jervois, who had laid the foundation stone. And at that time it housed the library, the South Australian Museum and the Art Gallery of South Australia, all in the building. It has been described as one of the world's most beautiful library buildings, a French Renaissance style building with ground floor and 2 upper galleries. And within the building itself, there's displays from the library's collections. I still get a thrill when I go into the Mortlach building. Sometimes I give tours to members of the public and I talk about the building, I talk about the library's collections, but I still get a sense of pleasure when I see the look on people's faces who've never seen the place before.
Close to the library lies another of Adelaide's best free attractions, the 52-hectare Botanic Garden, one of the oldest civic gardens in the country. It's well worth a wander at your own pace, but AAT Kings guests also have the option to explore the grounds with an Indigenous guide. Kanifa from Southern Cultural Immersion gets things underway with a welcome to country before setting off at a relaxed pace. Along the way, we learn the traditional uses of various plants in Aboriginal culture, but it's also a rare opportunity just to walk and talk. And all in all, this is 60 minutes well spent. And that all but wraps up this amazing adventure with AAT Kings. But we have one final highlight to share. Escaping religious persecution in Prussia, German Lutherans settled in the Adelaide Hills in the late 1830s. They established the village of Hahndorf, today one of South Australia's top attractions. That German heritage is still very visible, and it seemed only fitting to toast those early pioneers with a frothy stein. For more Aussie travel inspo, just head to our website.